Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're cracking the code on two massive financial milestones that, honestly, most people get completely wrong. We're diving into the secret rules of money. First, we'll talk about saving, what we call walking away money, and then how aggressively ignoring Wall Street is literally the ultimate key to building generational wealth. Forget everything you thought you knew about getting ahead, because the math we're looking at today is going to completely change how you view your career and your bank account.
So what if the secret to wealth is just being painfully boring? Think about it. We see all these financial gurus out there selling the myth that you need to make $1 million, land a massive six-figure salary overnight, or get into some top-secret hedge fund just to feel wealthy. But the truth? As we'll unpack in this explainer, true wealth building is fundamentally and almost painfully boring. It doesn't take perfectly timing the market. There's no magic bullet here. It requires something far simpler, but infinitely more powerful.
Section 1. The Corporate Survival Trap. Okay, let's dive right into this.
Before we can even talk about building wealth, we've got to talk about vulnerability. To really grasp why certain financial milestones are so powerful, you first need to deeply understand what it feels like to be broke, living paycheck to paycheck. When your entire mental bandwidth is just chewed up by short-term survival, well, it's exactly like trying to plan a vacation while your house is literally on fire. In that state of pure desperation, you're forced to make terrible decisions. You grab the very first job offer that comes along, even if it's a terrible fit, because hey, you just can't afford to be picky. You stay in toxic work environments because the thought of leaving feels way too risky. Ultimately, you're trapped. You desperately need that next paycheck, and that hands your boss and your company absolutely all the negotiating leverage.
Section 2. The $20,000 Career Superpower. Here's the thing. You don't need $1 million to break that survival cycle. You just need to hit a very specific threshold, and that's $20,000. Hitting this number completely rewires your brain. It fundamentally changes the rules of the corporate game. Honestly, the corporate world secretly hopes you never pull this off, because the exact second you do, the power dynamic totally flips. Let's look at the psychology here. Research from Vanguard actually shows that having just a $2,000 emergency fund increases your financial well-being by 21%. Just $2,000. Now, I want you to imagine the massive psychological shift of having 10 times that amount just sitting in the bank. You stop waking up terrified wondering how you're going to survive the week. Your brain finally has the breathing room to start asking how you can grow.
That $20,000, it becomes your walking away money. It basically means you could literally quit your job tomorrow and survive for months while you find something better. And here's the kicker. Even if you never actually touch that money, just knowing it's sitting right there completely changes your entire vibe at work. You're no longer operating out of fear. You can push back on unreasonable demands. You can finally ask for that raise you deserve because, the absolute worst thing they can say is no, and you're going to be perfectly fine either way. The broke mindset is all about short-term survival, right? It's reacting to emergencies and negotiating out of pure desperation. The 20K mindset, on the other hand, is defined by this quiet confidence. And here's the ultimate irony. When you aren't desperate, people at work instantly notice the shift. You naturally become more assertive. You take on new projects. This quiet confidence sets off a positive feedback loop that ironically leads to better assignments, way more recognition, and eventually even higher pay.
Section 3. The Depreciating Asset Trap. Now, as you're building this superpower, you've got to watch out because there's a massive trap waiting for you. So many people work incredibly hard to hit that $20,000 mark, they feel that rush of financial relief, and then they immediately blow it. And what's the absolute most common form of this destructive lifestyle creep? The shiny, brand new $30,000 car. People think, hey, I've made it. I have some savings. I deserve this. But actually, scratch that. That $20,000 isn't a reward for good behavior. It's the seed that's meant to grow into generational wealth. Buying this car is the exact moment you sabotage your own superpower.
Because the literal second you drive that brand new $30,000 car off the dealer's lot, it instantly loses about 20% of its value. Boom, gone. That is immediate wealth destruction. You are actively setting fire to the financial foundation you just worked so incredibly hard to build.
But the real tragedy isn't even the instant appreciation. It's the massive opportunity cost. When you develop a true wealth mindset, you realize something crucial. That $30,000 car isn't just costing you $30,000. It's actually costing you the $200,000 that money could have grown into if you just left it in an investment account for 20 years. To put that into perspective, that car is literally costing you your future freedom.
And this divergence? It builds a completely different lifestyle over time. The ironic reality here is that the person white-knuckling the steering wheel of that flashy new car is very likely super stressed about money, firmly trapped at a job they hate just to make the monthly payments. Meanwhile, the person driving the reliable, kinda boring, used car is quietly building their freedom fund and sleeping incredibly soundly at night.
Section 4. The $500,000 advisor illusion. Okay, so you've saved the 20 grand and you've managed to avoid the new car trap. Amazing. Now you need to invest it. And this brings us to the final boss. If you want to play the long-term wealth game, you really have to understand the trap of the financial advisor. Wall Street entirely thrives on making things seem incredibly complex. They want you to think you need a bunch of PhDs and exciting high-stakes active strategies to make money. And for their quote-unquote help, they charge a seemingly harmless active management fee of just 1%. I mean, it sounds so small, right? Just 1% to let the experts handle things so they can go ahead and fund their own exciting lifestyles. But the shocking reality is that this tiny, little 1% fee secretly siphons over $500,000 out of a typical everyday retirement over a lifetime. Let that sink in for a second. Over $500,000. Just gone. Sucked straight out of your wealth and handed directly to an advisor, simply because you bought into the illusion that investing has to be complex. Section 5. The case for boring investing.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how clearly it lays out the battlefield. It's time to abandon those exciting strategies and embrace the mathematically superior, lazy method. The contrast is night and day. Active Wall Street investing relies on high complexity, hidden fees, and trying to time the market, which really just ensures the advisor gets wealthy. Conversely, boring index investing, it uses low cost, requires absolutely no special degree, relies on total market index funds, and ensures that you are the one building generational wealth. A low-cost automated system mathematically outperforms Wall Street's exciting illusions almost every single time.
So, what does this system actually look like in practice? Well, here are the real cheat codes to the wealth system. Step 1, set up automated monthly contributions. Step 2, buy total market index funds. Step 3, aggressively ignore it for decades. That is literally it. The real secret here isn't timing the market or having some insider information. It's just extreme patience and consistency. You set it and you forget it.
And just to ground this math in reality, consider the famous story of an everyday worker who quietly amassed an $8 million fortune. A janitor? No way, right? But it's true. He never earned a massive salary. He didn't have any sort of Wall Street background. He simply used this exact lazy method of boring investing. He lived below his means and let time and compounding do all the heavy lifting for him.
This brilliantly illustrates our core truth today. Your ultimate wealth-building edge isn't a high salary or a depreciating Lamborghini. It's discipline, time, and extreme patience. Anyone, and I mean anyone, can achieve financial freedom if they can simply avoid the traps of lifestyle creep and high-fee advisors.
Which brings us to our final provocative question for you today. Are you reacting to life, or are you finally designing it? Having that $20,000 walking away fund is the difference between just surviving and truly thriving. So if true wealth is ultimately just a matter of patience and avoiding those shiny, expensive traps, what's the very first automated step you're going to take tomorrow to buy back your freedom?